Hello, it's time for the last game here in the Grand Slam chess final. And it's between Magnus Carlsen and the world champion Anand. Anand is the best player from India, and if you just think of like how remarkable it was for Anand to become so good, if you think like where he came from. He was, as I understand it, his parents was not particularly rich. He was just a like street kid in India, and there I've heard a story that he played. They had like one chessboard in the crossing where he was hanging as a kid, and there the men had one chessboard, and they played chess in the road crossing, and they did this one where if you win you stay, and if you lose someone else get the chance to play, basically. And Vishy loved chess so much, so he learned to never lose because he wanted to keep playing. And then at maybe I don't know, 20 maybe, he was he got a world championship match against Kasparov already in 92, where he did very good. It was maybe 10 draws first, and then Vishy won a very nice game, but then Kasparov managed to win the rest, and he kept his title. And then maybe 20 years later, when he was maybe 40, so now Vishy is about 40 in this game, and maybe he's 50 now when I'm making this video. Then Vishy won his match against Kramnik and became world champion. And on Chess24 there was some very interesting video series where Jan Gustafsson was in the middle, and on one side was Peter Nielsen, who was Vishy's second, and on the other side was Laurent Fressinet, who was Kramnik's second, and they were like discussing like the preparations. And I remember from that game that Vishy, he decided to pick up the Semislav, which was a very popular opening back then, and basically Vishy is good at tactics, and he's also good at endgames. Basically he's a good calculator. He's basically trained himself to be very good at calculation. Also, of course, he has a skill that is very good at calculation. So that has made it so that even now when he's over 50, he plays chess at a 2700 level, and that's really astonishing. So after Vishy beat Kramnik, I think he maybe defeated Kramnik maybe 2 times, maybe one more time when Kramnik challenged, and then 2012, in this summer, he won a very nice match against Boris Gelfand, which was a surprise that Gelfand won the candidates tournament, so he got the chance to play the world championship match against Anand. And that match was actually tied, I think, and then Anand won in the rapid decisive games. So Anand is the world championship now, but he won't be it for long because there is a new bigger genius coming. And next time, I think maybe in 2014, Anand will play Magnus in a match. Magnus, I have also made a video about that. He qualified to the candidates, of course, because for one thing he had the highest ratings. You could always go in on a rating, but for some some random like principle, he decided to decline that and not try to become world champion and not play the candidates, because if he had played the candidates, I'm sure he would have Magnus would have won the candidates ahead of Gelfand, and then he probably would have defeated Anand in the world championship match and got world champion already now in 2012 when he was 22. Then he would have become the youngest world champion ever, I think, because I think Tal and Kasparov was maybe also around maybe 23 or something, 24, something like that. But Carlsen got it next in when he was 24, I think 2014. In next match against Anand. So this is like an interesting game because it shows what will happen like in 2 years in the World Championship match. So let's see what's happening here. And Anand being a good with opening preparation, and they say like when you prepare for World Championship match, you have so long time when you don't play open tournaments, and the reason for that is that basically you want to practice, memorize openings with your second and play training games with your coaches, and you don't want your opponent to know, like for example, if let's say Anand planned to play the Najdorf variation in the Sicilian here, then you don't want to play like a tournament like 2 weeks before where you play it, because then it's kind of obvious like this is your main weapon. But there is an interesting thing now, because there will be a World Championship match between the current world champion Ding Liren and Gukesh, who won the candidates, and both of them are actually playing constantly. Like they played the Olympiad where India won the gold medal in the Olympiad, and Gukesh played there, and Ding Liren also played for China. So they are not doing like it was like 10 or 20 years ago, where you basically you trained like half a year before the World Championship match, and because of there is such a huge amount of prize money in the World Championship match. I think like winner maybe get like $10 million or something like that, and loser maybe 5 million. So it's just like you win one of those and you're basically set for life. You never have to work ever again if you manage to become world champion. So but it's new times now, and Magnus said that was one of the reasons that he got bored and didn't want to keep the World Championship title, because he could surely have defended and been world champion for another 10 years probably. That's my guess. And it was because he thought it was boring to be on this training camp, and that has been a huge failure for his team, mainly Peter Nielsen, his main trainer, and his team, his father Henrik, and Laurent and Jan Gustafsson, and all those people who was in his training team, that they couldn't motivate him to fight and become world champion more, because he could quit like every other. There is like probably less money in all the tournaments he plays between the World Championship matches than it's in the World Champion, and more prestige in the World Championship title also. But Magnus of course is so rich now, so he doesn't need to think about prize money, of course. Okay, anyway, let's go for this game. So because Anand is known as being a good theoretician, and he trained a lot of openings before the World Championship match, Magnus decides to go for this bishop b5 check, which is a good way to get a little less sharp game and getting out of theory. And I also think Magnus' positional understanding is ahead of Vichy. Vichy needs to play openings with familiar plans, where he can use his calculation and endgame skills to play basically. So Magnus goes for this. This is known as the Maroc-Zyt setup here, and let's also put on the computer so we get some guidance here. This is known as the Maroc-Zyt bind setup here. It's not really a classic one because the white squared bishop are traded, and it's hard, like people argue if that favors white or black, because this is like a normal a common setup here. Basically it's considered to be quite even. The problem for black is that sometimes if white, it's hard for white to do anything, but if white doesn't do anything, it's also hard for black to do anything. But here, and I'm sure this is theory, Anand, he would never like make a move like that if it wasn't theory. He makes d5 here which is definitely theory for these guys to break open the center. So Magnus took, and he moved the queen. And here now Anand is probably out of book here because he doesn't do the best move here. He does an inaccuracy, and he does a move that's quite hard to understand why he makes that move. He makes rook d to c1, putting the rook on a worse square. It's quite very quite a strange move. Computer like a5 as you can see, or knight e8, which also is quite a strange move trying to trade. It's, yeah, but it's not an easy to find. Like for example, if knight e8 is the best move and try to trade there, then maybe it's that's just a hard move to find at the board if you don't know about it. So let's see what happened. Magnus did e5, that's normal, and he played here. And now Magnus makes an interesting move that's not good. He should have done f4, and he would have quite a good position and half a pawn's advantage, because this bishop is just out of play. He should have made f4. And in this position, for example, after bishop a5 here, which is a good move preventing a5. So that's also a reason that black should have done a5, trying for a4 and trade and open here a bit. This bishop and knight is basically quite passive, but black has a solid enough position. But it's quite right now the pieces are quite passive, but black is quite solid. But Magnus makes a more interesting move. He decided to sacrifice a pawn to get some play, and I can actually, the computer thinks it's dubious, but I kind of like it. If I would be white, I would definitely also try e6 here and try to get some play against the king, because I thought that position that we looked at before, like sure, it's a safe advantage, but I personally I would not be comfortable to like think I would be able to win here, because but on the other hand, Magnus is the best positional player in the world ever. So for him, I think the decision to go for this pawn sacrifice instead of this stable positional advantage was probably not correct. But for me, as an attacking player, e6 is I like that very much. So he took here. Actually, the computer prefers f6 or f5. That's it's hard. Let me just take something to drink. So I'll be right back. So both f6 and f5 is apparently better, but it's it's especially f6 I don't like putting trapping your own bishop. That doesn't look right. f5 I have more understanding for, like this pawn can be weak and attacked sometimes. So it's yeah, I want stockfish. I didn't have the best stockfish. Now I have the best stockfish here. I was thinking, why is it stockfish 16? I want stockfish 17, of course, to do my analysis here. Maybe let's just increase the memories. Why not? Why not? Getting a bit more firepower for the computer. So here another way that I like a little bit more is maybe that queen e3 that the computer also suggests a bit. It's like queen e3 I can understand it. It's good chances that the queens will be traded, and then that endgame is the worst is probably over then. But let's see what happens. Anand is he's a brave player, so he's not. If you think it's best to take the pawn, he will just take it and try to calculate it to the end. And knight f4. He could also have taken on g7, but that will just activate the knight a bit. So maybe knight f4 is probably better. And he took on. Anand took on c3. The computer prefers c5. I don't think they saw that e5 is a little bit easier to understand. So the point of this is apparently if you play this one to play this one. That's I guess to try to trade here and activate the rook. It's just not a human way to play, but it's the best. More logical is this move, which I'm sure they considered. And then it's logical to take here. Don't take. How to say which is best here. Kinda like this one, keeping black's pieces a little bit passive here. And you want to centralize your pieces even if you lose a pawn. But this knight is defending, so it's just not hard. It's hard for white to get any kind of attack here. It looks like white only have two pieces in the attack and this knight defense, so it looks like that's nothing really. So maybe e3 was a little bit better. Let's see what they did. He did bishop c3. You have to take that, of course. And here he got his own trump card. He played d4 and then c5 to get passer. Computer thinks it's also possible to play dc4. Both are a bit better for white. But it's logical to get your own passer, so you have something to win with. Like this could be a winning pawn in an endgame. So if you're gonna suffer, so you want to have something to look forward to. Okay, and now e6 is threatened, so he has to go here. And g4 is apparently best. Yeah, it's if black somehow can go here and here, that knight on e3 would be super strong, and it would be worth an exchange for sure. So it's g4 is definitely correct. So here apparently black makes a big mistake. Correct was queen d6. Yeah, and this looks best because e5 was a threat. So you get the good blockading knight. Nimzowitsch, he wrote a whole book about this blockading knight here, blockading a passer, and so it's a good way to have the piece here. But still, yeah, this would have been a better way to play for black. Apparently, he can get counterplay by doing this taking here and then putting like the rook and attack b3. So black has potential here for counterplay. So let's see why this one is bad. Rook c6 is bad. Okay, that's interesting and very very smart of Magnus to see this maneuver. I wouldn't have thought about it like at the beginning. He placed the knight here. The idea is to go here and then here. Usually this is not so dangerous if the black knight is here, but now he has fianchettoed the knight, so it will need to go back here. But then, yeah, so let's see. Yeah, he does that. He tries to go back with the knight to the normal square, but the computer likes e5 better. Let's see why. Okay, it's because tactical reason, either g5 and you can get the rook to the defense, or knight here, but then you can take here. This also looks scary for black. Now apparently he has to go here, because I guess you threaten to take a knight here, and you can't defend h7, so he has to go back. So but why can't you do that anyway? I guess it's just because the queen can defend here, I guess, on f6. It can defend here. But yeah, it's still, the variation continues. Yeah, strong knight, strong attack. Yeah, this also looks good for white actually. So, but e5 was apparently the best chance anyway. This looked logical also to put the knight correct where it defends here, but there must be something wrong with this. Maybe it's like white can do here and take. Maybe that's the bad thing. Yeah, black's pieces are, black would like to go here and trade the queens, but then this e6 is hanging, so black is very tied up. That's a nice maneuver, the main line of the computer. He wants to go here and then here, just so you protect this and then try to trade, like used to save a tempo, so white can't take here. That's nice maneuver. He goes used to defend. It's faster to go like that, but you lose e6 at once, so you like win a tempo on that. Okay, so this is, and I guess the reason is like it's apparently rook e5. I don't really understand that. I guess it's because, let's see how white wins then. Yeah, okay, so it takes like this. I see, that's how he breaks through. So rook e5 is the threat. I see. So he does it here, and Magnus sees that and do rook e5 to king e8. And now this doesn't work then, I guess. I have time for this now. Yeah, so black wins the tempo with king h8. So apparently rook here, winning the pawn, is correct. Yeah, now he saw that maneuver probably, or maybe he wanted to take here, but Magnus just made a4. Strange that he resigned, that he didn't complete his plan, but of course, yeah, it's the position is depressing, so maybe he yeah, everything is bad about black's position. Pieces are not developed, they are weak pawns everywhere, king is weak, so everything is bad. Yeah, very nice game of Magnus. So now this was the last game from the tournament Grand Slam chess final, and as you know, the Grand Slam is always the last tournament of the year, and the first tournament is always Vi kan se tournament in Netherlands, which Magnus almost always used to win. So it will be fun. I will need to find new games and add them to the opening file, so that will be fun. And then we look at some Magnus games from Vi kan se.